And if you're interested to see a comparison on the Sony website, you can go to this URL and there's a comparison chart. But I want to get more in depth about what the important features are, the important differences between the Movie Studio version and the Sony Vegas Pro version. Well, I think in the latest version of Movie Studio, version 10, they've really added a couple more features that bring it that much closer to Sony Vegas Pro in a couple of important ways. One is you now have 10 tracks each of audio and video in Movie Studio, and there are very few projects you're going to need more than those 10 tracks, which you would get in Sony Vegas Pro, which has unlimited tracks. The other feature that's been added to Movie Studio 10 is the custom presets that you can do in the rendering options. So for instance, if you're making a DVD and rendering MPEG files, you can now have a lot more control over the bit rates and all that kind of thing. Again, that was only available in Pro version previously. But there are other features that you're not going to get in Movie Studio that you will have in Pro. And I'm going to explain and demonstrate some of those features so you can get a really good idea of what the differences are in these packages. So for one thing, I've already mentioned Vegas Pro has unlimited number of tracks, and so you can get some real complicated projects going on. Vegas Pro also has closed captioning, as well as support for stereoscopic 3D editing, and that's the big craze these days, so that will help you get your 3D projects done. In Vegas Pro, we also have an option in preview to have a split screen to show us the before and after of applying effects. That's pretty handy. And also you have support for human interface devices in Pro. And so, for instance, this is a Mackie Control Universal, and it is a human interface device, or a control surface as it's called. And a control surface is basically a real-world box with sliders and buttons and knobs and all the things you need to interface with the virtual world of the software. And this is how we did it before we had software, have actual jog wheels and buttons and things to push. And it's a really nice way to use the software, and it does some things you can't do with software alone. For instance, move the volume levels of different tracks all at the same time, which you can't do by clicking and dragging. So the Mackie Control Surface was the first, but not the only one now supported by Sony Vegas Pro. The Media Manager also comes with Sony Vegas Pro, and that is a database program that allows you to log in all your audio and video clips and also give it different tags and ratings and all kinds of things that let you search it later to find all your media. And a really cool thing about that is that the media doesn't even have to be online, or like if it's a part of an external hard drive that you don't have hooked up, you can still find out where that piece of media is and all kind of information about it. Sony Vegas Pro also has a few more video effects on it than Movie Studio does, and it also allows you to customize your keyboard. So this is Vegas Pro, and I'm going to go to Options, Customize Keyboard, and this allows you to assign either existing keyboard combinations that are already part of the program, or you can put your own keyboard combinations and map them to any of the keys on your keyboard. And something I always do with Vegas Pro is map in the frame advance and frame backward, one frame at a time, using the arrow keys. By default, you have to hit Alt arrow to make that happen normally in both Movie Studio and Vegas Pro. So that allows you to customize it. Something else that Vegas Pro does is allow you to do project nesting. And what that means is you can have entire projects that you've completed, which could be just only a few minutes or an hours or whatever it is, and take that and plop it in to a different project, and that will function as its own entity. This lets you work on very complex projects, and if you want to do them one section at a time, you could just put together a final version with all the nested finished projects or segments all put together. Something else is we have different tricks we can do with the audio that's in the Pro version that you won't see in Movie Studio. So for instance, here's a project set up with this 3 tracks of audio. I got 3 things going on here. One of the visual differences you'll see are these little meters along the side and the track headers here. If I just play this cacophony of 3 different things, you see those meters going on the side. And more importantly, kind of under the hood kind of a thing, is that we have audio buses in Sony Vegas Pro. and that allows you to direct the output of different tracks to basically another area that you can work on independently. So for instance, I'm going to insert audio bus, and again insert another audio bus. Now on the different tracks here, I can assign each of these tracks to its own bus or multiple tracks to one bus. Let's change this one to bus A, this one also to bus A, and we'll send this one to bus B. In this particular example, there's a whole bunch of different things that don't really make sense to have running all together. But let's say you've recorded an orchestra and you have the whole wind section on different mics and you want to independently control all those mics together of just the tracks that have the woodwinds. Or let's say you have a drum set and you have the 3 or 4 mics on a drum set and you want to be able to raise or lower its volume independently but not have to individually go in and change all those different tracks. This is how you use buses. So I'm going to show the buses here. This is bus A, bus B, and this is the master bus for everything. And if I just play this, you'll hear all these three playing at the same time. Remember, the top 2 tracks I have sent to bus A. The bottom track is going to B. And what I'm going to do when it's playing is just solo bus B, and you'll be able to hear just that one track. If I solo bus A, you'll hear the top 2. Okay, that's a lot easier to hear. And there are those 2 things. So you get the idea that you can control more than one of the audio tracks all at the same time by using the bus. You can change the volume, you can do other things with it, and affect the selected audio tracks. Something else that we have in Pro that is not available in Movie Studio is a mixing console, and that is just another view of a lot of these tools, but in a more convenient way to work on them if you're really working extensively on audio. So here we have represented the 3 audio tracks and plus the A bus, B bus, and the master bus, all in one convenient interface here. Something else we have in Vegas Pro 10 is the ability to group tracks together. Let's say we have these 3 audio tracks. I'm going to select all of them, right click, and choose track group, group selected tracks. And now after you've applied that, you can hide or expand that group of tracks. That makes it easier sometimes if you have a lot of things going on and you just want to focus on working on one thing rather than another. Something else you have in Vegas Pro is scripting. And scripting is a very powerful thing, and it comes with a bunch of different scripts in it. These are basically macros that allow you to do in one step what would normally take 2 or 1,000 other steps. And it comes with some handy things. It allows you to do batch rendering. For instance, if you want to render the same thing all in different formats, you can do it all and set it up and then just go and let it work on it by itself. You can do all kind of things that they've included here. And the scripting also works with other packages you could add on, such as Excalibur or Sony's Production Assistant. Vegas Pro also has a more sophisticated character generator or titler called ProType Titler. And I'll just throw something on here real quick just so you can see the interface. And so the Pro Titler is something in addition to the regular text tool. You get both of those in Vegas Pro. You only get the regular text tool in Movie Studio. And the Pro Titler allows you to do some really cool effects. You can have the text move along splines, in other words, kind of a roller coaster thing, or follow circles, or do other things like drop in and sequence. You can apply an effect to a whole word and each letter will drop in. A lot more sophisticated approach to your titling. Something else you have in Pro is another view called Edit Details. This is actually pretty handy, especially when you're working with markers and regions, which we're going to cover later on. I'm going to put a few markers in here and just type in random characters as names. And if you have a project with a lot of markers and regions, you'll be able to get a list here where you can actually copy and paste that list. There's a bunch of different things you can do with this Edit Details feature. I'm just going to undo my way out and take out all those markers. And let's go ahead and select all and delete all this media. Get rid of the bus tracks. And let's add some video in here. So here's some bicycle racing footage, and I'm going to make this a little bigger. This is letterbox because it doesn't match the project settings. We'll talk a lot more about that in a little while. But I just want to show you a velocity envelope, and that's a way we have to change the speed of the video playing back in a dynamic way where it can speed up, slow down, or speed up and speed up even more. You don't have this in Movie Studio, so I'm going to insert a velocity envelope here. Let's go ahead and play it at normal speed. Okay, you get the idea. But by putting in different points, you'll be able to drag and change the speed of the playback and even go into slow motion. And even as it's playing back, you can click and drag and even go in reverse. Now, are there ways to speed up and slow down the footage using only Movie Studio? The answer is yes. You just don't have the velocity envelope tool, which makes it easier. Something else that's a very important distinction between Vegas Pro and Movie Studio is the ability to do Bezier masking. And let me just demonstrate that real quick here. I'll open up Pan Crop, and I'm just going to create a mask here around the cyclist. And this is why I love using a tablet, because it's so much easier to do this kind of thing. This is real time. And you see now in the preview, I've now cut out the cyclist. You can have all kinds of different backgrounds, composite different things together. You can move the mask over time, animate it to follow different things around the frame. It's a very handy thing to have, and that's only available in Pro. Something else that's a major different feature, and now let's go ahead and bring something else in here. I have some campfire footage. One thing you can only do in Vegas Pro is 3D track motion. Track motion is the tool we use to move the images around the screen. We're going to go a lot more in depth into this a little later, moving the image around the screen or resizing it. But Vegas Pro allows you to do this in 3D as well, and so you could actually tilt in different dimensions, swivel it around. Of course, this can all be animated as the video is playing. So if you need 3D track motion, you're going to need to get the Pro version. Something else we have in Pro are video scopes, and most useful is the waveform monitor. This gives you information on the brightness of various parts of your image, and it's especially important as you're manipulating the brightness, let's say. Let me go ahead and put something else in a timeline here. And of course the track motion is going to apply to everything on that track. I'm going to go ahead and just add another video track and put that on there. There we go. And you can see the differences in the waveform. I'm going to click over here by the fire. That changes. This changes. Let's go ahead and throw on an effect. And don't worry if you can't follow what I'm doing here, because we're going to go in depth into a lot of this stuff. And so don't feel intimidated or lost at this point. I'm just doing a quick demo here of some of the tools we have. So here are color curves, and it's one way we can manipulate the brightness of the image. And if you look at the preview, you see how I'm manipulating the brightness and darkness of the image here. But more importantly, you can see represented in the waveform monitor the exact number in IRE. And this would be important especially if you're preparing a video for broadcast and you need to keep these into legal limits for how bright and how dark the image can be. Another major feature of Sony Vegas Pro versus Movie Studio, multi-camera editing, something I do a lot of. So let me just close this down. I'm going to open another project. And right here, if I enable multi-camera editing, basically we have compressed onto one track 4 different video tracks, and we can play along and see all 4 simultaneously. And as it's playing, and I'm going to mute the audio, as it's playing, either with the mouse or the keyboard, you can select which camera is going to be in the final edit showing at that point. If you hold the control key, you'll get a dissolve. If not, you'll just get regular cuts. And you can see as I'm doing that, right here on the timeline, it's creating all those cuts one to the other. If I take it out of the multi-view mode and I just drag across here, you can see the cameras have changed according to the random way I was clicking on there. Here's a dissolve. Here's another one. And while we're here, also point out that Vegas Pro has several different areas where it has these transport controls. In Movie Studio you will only have them on the bottom here, so that's a matter of convenience. It also has it on the trimmer. Let's get that up. So you have these transport controls appearing in multiple places on the screen, and it also includes a new feature, which is being able to go a frame backwards and forward, similar to how I was describing before using the arrow keys on the keyboard. So that's pretty handy to have. And Vegas Pro also supports certain third-party packages like Boris Continuum, which has a lot of great features, definitely worth checking out. But the point of all this is not to persuade you to buy Pro or feel bad if you're a Movie Studio user. Just want you to be informed about the differences between those two software packages. There's a pretty big price difference there. Actually, there's one feature that Movie Studio has that Pro does not, and that is the slideshow creator, and we'll talk more about that later.